Hey folks, welcome back to Ed's Garage at Merton Hyundai. Today I want to do something a little bit different. I want to show you guys what goes through a pre-delivery sort of inspection by the salesperson and what we do to kind of set things up, or at least what a good salesperson should do to set things up for their vehicle or for their customer for their brand new vehicle, so that they're totally comfortable with it and they know how to use everything and stuff like that when they take it off the lot. So I hope every salesperson does this. I know a lot of them don't, but here's what I do. So this is the vehicle in question, a beautiful 2022 Tucson Luxury Hybrid. So you get to see a little bit about this vehicle while I'm going through it. But what I do essentially with the customer when they're here, when they're picking up the car, is I'll go through everything on the back of the vehicle first, then under the hood, then in the rear seat, and then finally all of the features and equipment in the front seats. So we're going to start at the back here just to make sure that it's prepped and kind of ready to go for that delivery procedure. So the first thing I'm noticing is that the smart trunk is not enabled, so I'm going to enable that a little bit later. And we actually have a checklist that we go over with the client as well. I'll show you that as well. So basically what this video is all about is showing you guys how we kind of prep the vehicle for the delivery process. All right, so starting in the back here, I want to make sure that this is kind of tidied up and ready to go. Things like the covers or the privacy cover is already installed. So one thing you're not seeing here is when these vehicles come off the truck, they're completely covered in plastic. There's like easily 400 pieces of plastic on. That's not an exaggeration. Easily 400 pieces of protective plastic covering everything in the vehicle and outside the vehicle to make sure it's protected during shipping. So one thing you'll notice right here is actually a little bit of that protective plastic is still on the privacy cover, so the detailer missed that. And of course the other thing that you miss is the vehicle has gone through a full mechanical and safety inspection to make sure that obviously it's safe to drive, and of course it's been fully detailed. So even though it's fully detailed, detailers are only human, they're going to miss things like that. So that's why we kind of go through, as a salesperson, we'll kind of go through and just make sure that everything is done right and nothing's been missed. So all right, so also back here, you can see we've got the tire mobility kit just sitting out of the vehicle. Any accessories that the customer purchased are installed, so that's done. So I'm going to lift the floor here and put the tire mobility kit in. I also want to make sure that things like this here, you can see the tow hooks are not just rattling around and sliding around. So we want to put those somewhere where they're going to be secure. So maybe what I'll do is tuck those right in there. Tough to do with one hand. And then I'll put the tire mobility kit in that little perfect spot for it right there. All right, so that's done. So these are the mats that came out. The purchaser actually got some nice WeatherTech mats to put in, so those are installed as well. Okay, so other than that, everything back here looks okay. So we're going to move on to the rear seats. All right, see now it's only set up to do a one button press to open up all the doors, so I'm going to be changing that in the system a little bit later. All right, floor looks pretty clean. Everything here looks nice. I don't see any plastic or anything. There's no, what they'll have is they'll have plastic covering the seat belts, and there'll be an elastic band on there that's going to be pulled off. Here you can see we've got a sticker on the seat belt, so it's actually still got the plastic wrap on it as well, so I'm going to pull that off. All right, just kind of tuck that in there nicely. All right, make sure that the seat belts are tucked away as well, and I don't see any other plastic in the back here. So basically I'm just looking for any protective plastic that was forgotten. Looks like they got it. Oh, see, there's one right there. See? Oh, look at that. Forgot this huge one right here. Yeah. Detailer was sleeping on this one. All right, next we'll pop the hood. All right, so under the hood, sometimes we'll see plastic still on the top of the accessory battery and sometimes on the fuse box. This one doesn't actually have an accessory battery because it's one of our hybrids that just doesn't have that. But you'll notice it's actually not properly cleaned under here, so I'm going to have to get the detailer to come back over here with a rag and just keep that get that a little bit cleaned up. So now one thing that some people will do is they'll actually fill up the windshield washer fluid. But what we found is that anytime we add stuff that's from Canada to the stuff that comes from Korea, the smell is just bizarre. So we actually don't bother topping that up, and I'll always let my client know during the delivery process. I'll let them know, wait until it's completely empty the first time before you add stuff. And while the detailer is busy, so I'm going to go ahead and wipe this down. So the reason I'm doing under the hood, guys, even though, it's going to get dirty very, very soon after, is because, you know what, it's a brand new car, and the customer that's purchasing this vehicle is spending a lot of money, and therefore it should look like a brand new car that just came off the assembly line. So it's kind of nice if we can make it just a little bit nicer. And I do have to go over some things with the client under the hood here during the checklist, the walkthrough, the delivery process. I want to make sure that it looks really good. All right, so that's looking a lot better already. So the next step is in the front seat. All right, now as this vehicle has been detailed already, when I get in, I'm going to try to avoid stepping on the floor mats because I want that to stay clean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my foot into the vehicle, put it right on the brake pedal, and I'm going to get my left foot all the way up into the back of the footwell so that I'm not touching the floor mat, trying to keep everything as clean as possible. So everything does look pretty good in here. So essentially what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up the stereo and the instrument cluster and some of the features of the vehicle the way that most people like them. So when I'm going through the delivery procedure with my client through that checklist, we're going to go over all this stuff again anyway. However, this kind of saves a little bit of time. So let's get some of that figured out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up stuff in the instrument cluster. So this is a brand new vehicle, so I want it to look that way when the customer comes in the first time. So what I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to increase the brightness all the way to 20. Okay, so I did that with this button down here on the bottom left because we want all the lights to come on nice and bright. And then I'm going to use the two buttons here to kind of go through the menus and reset everything back to basic defaults. Okay, so what I mean by that is like the drive info right here, the trip computers, and reset that. Accumulated information, reset that, and then I'm going to put it, when I'm all done, I'm going to put it on the digital instrument cluster, on the digital, speedometer. But I'm going to go over to driver settings here because I want to make sure that everything here is turned on the way that most people like it. So under driver assistance, warning timing is on normal, that's good. Warning volume is on medium, that's good. Driver attention warning system, both of those are turned on. Forward safety, we've got on active assist, which is good. Lane safety is on active assist, which is good. Blind spot monitoring is on, which is nice. That's the way we want it. And the active assist is on. Parking safety, rear cross traffic is turned on as well. We're going to back out, go into the cluster. We're going to reset the fuel economy. I'm going to set that to manual. I find that most people get annoyed when it resets every single time they fill up, so we put that on manual. And then we're going to go to, let's see, we're going to make sure those are turned on. I want the welcome sound on because that sounds kind of cool when the customer gets in and turns on the car. The theme selection, we could change that, but we're going to leave it to link to drive mode. Going to go into lights, illuminations already on max, one touch turn signal. So this one we're going to put on 5 flashes because that's actually a safer interval for when you're doing lane changes or coming out of a roundabout, for instance. So what that is when I tap this, it's now going to flash 5 times before stopping on its own. So we'll put that on 5 flashes, back out of there. Under the ambient light brightness, we're going to put that on maximum, of course. And ambient light color, well, you can choose whatever color you like. I think blue is always a good bet, so I'm going to leave that on ice blue. Headlight delay, we'll keep that on. High beam assist, we'll keep that on, of course. Under door, here's that 2-press unlock, so I'm going to enable that. And the power liftgate is enabled as well. Power liftgate opening speed is on fast, which is where we want it. And then the smart liftgate wasn't enabled, so we're going to turn that on as well. Under convenience, welcome light on driver approach is on, that's good. Rear occupant alert is on, that's good. Wireless charging system is good. Now, some people like to have the auto rear wiper on. Personally, I leave it off because I find that it doesn't necessarily always need to be on anyway when you're backing up, but I will show the customer where that is. I'm also going to go into the service interval, and I'm going to go ahead and set that up. So in British Columbia, we have a recommended service interval of 8,000 kilometers or 6 to 8 months. So we're going to put that on 8 months. save that, and that's ready to go for the client as well. All right, and then we got units. So speed unit, of course, we want in kilometers an hour here in Canada. Temperature unit, we want in Celsius, of course. Fuel economy unit, we want in liters per 100K. It's set up correctly. Tire pressure unit, it's kind of weird, but we prefer PSI, even though we're in Canada. And the tachometer display. So the tachometer display, basically what we can do is we can enable the tach in every mode or just in some modes. It actually makes sense where it is right now. So we're going to leave that the way it is. All right, and then finally the last screen is just the screen that shows the tire pressure monitor and everything. So that all looks good. So as I mentioned before, we're going to put this over to digital speedometer, and that's where we'll keep it. All right, so the next thing we're going to set up is the climate control system. So I'm going to leave that on automatic, on full, high automatic, and I'll of course tell the customer how that system works as well. I'm going to put the temperature at room temp, 21 degrees on both sides, and that's where I'm going to leave it. So automatic, 21 degrees on both sides, and again, that's just the way that most people like it. But of course, I'll go over how to change all of that with them. There's nothing really to set up down here, so we're going to leave all of that. But now we're going to set this screen up real quick. So this is pretty simple. Basically what I want to do is I want to make sure that there isn't any devices currently set up in here. And as you can see, there isn't. If there were, I would delete those. So if the vehicle's been test driven, for instance, it might have some things set up in there, which of course we want to take out. But now I'm going to go into the vehicle settings and make sure that everything here is set up the way I want it, which it is not. So activate recirculate on fluid use. Definitely want to have that. So what that means is when they use the windshield washer fluid, it'll actually recirculate so that they don't have to smell the windshield washer fluid. It'll recirculate the climate control. We want to make sure that automatic dehumidify is on and that the auto defrost and auto defog is turned on as well. For the seat heated and ventilated system, we can actually set this to automatic, which is pretty cool. So the reason I'm going to do that is now when they remote start the vehicle, it'll actually turn on the heated steering wheel and the heated seat automatically, and ventilation for the seats as well, also based on the climate control settings. So that's kind of cool. Next thing I'm going to go into is general. And I'm going to, basically, I can't do an update easily. Unfortunately, with this vehicle, you do need to use a flash card or flash drive to do an update. Not going to bother with that because if there was an update available, our dealership here actually does that during the pre-delivery inspection anyway. I'm going to make sure that the date and time is set correctly. It is currently 10:57. All right, so then we just have language and keyboard, so all of that's done and set up properly. The other thing I'll do is I'll go into the sound here and I'll go to sound tuning. I'll increase the bass because I find our vehicles could use a little bit more bass, and I'll increase the treble a little bit. Now this is somewhat personal preference, but I've never had a complaint, so that's where I set it. Under system volumes, I'll enable the startup volume limit so that when you turn the car on, it's not blasting music. If the last time you were in here, you had the music turned up loud. Under radio noise, I'm going to put that on max noise reduction. And that's pretty much it there. So I'm going to go to display next. I'm going to leave all of this on automatic for the illumination. I am going to enable the blue light filter. And I'm going to set that to level 5. For screensaver, I'm going to enable digital clock. So that's just when you turn off the screen by holding the volume power button. You'll actually get a digital clock. Home screen, we'll leave that, but I'll show the client where this is so that they can set it up the way they want. And extend rear camera use. A lot of people hate that, so I'm going to turn that off because you can actually turn on the backup camera simply by pressing this button anyway. Alright, the next thing that I set up for my clients is the different buttons in the vehicle. So you've got this custom button right here. I'm going to go ahead and set that up as the phone projection button, so that's Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. So regardless of what screen they happen to be in, hitting that button takes them back to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The custom steering wheel button, I'm going to set that to reject and end call. So that's this button right here. So right beside the answer button, there's now a hang up button. And then in the mode system here, so the other button on the steering wheel, the mode button right there, I always enable everything in here. And then I'll show the customer where to go to disable that if they want. But now hitting that mode button will cycle through those different sources of music. All right, so the only two things that I haven't gone into here are the Wi-Fi and BlueLink. So Wi-Fi, we just want to make sure that Wi-Fi phone projection is turned on. By default, it is. And then BlueLink, can't really do anything in here right now anyway. I need the customer for that, so I'm going to leave that for now. Now, the only other thing I'll do on the screen is I'll go into the radio here, and I'm going to actually undo these 3 presets because none of these 3 presets work in this area. All right, so it's all right. So what I am going to do, though, is I'm going to put it onto a radio station that does work in the area, and that's pretty common, and I'll make that a preset. And, of course, I'll show the client how to actually set presets during the delivery. I'll also turn on HD radio for them as well. So for HD radio data, that's already turned on. All right, so that's everything set up in the car, but there's a couple of things that we go over with the client before we even go out to the car. So that's what I'm going to show you next. So now that I've got this all set up the way that most people want it, before I jump out, I'm gonna grab whatever's in the glove box, other than the wheel lock key, if they decided to get wheel locks installed. So I've got a couple of VIN numbers here, and I've got a couple of manuals. Now I'm gonna go back to my desk. Before I go out to my desk, or back to my desk, sorry, you'll also notice I've got a sold sign in there because, you know what, people like to see that. All right, so now that I've set up the vehicle the way that most people like it, I come back into the dealership here because I want to get this checklist set up and ready to go. So this is basically everything that we go through with the client, or well, almost everything anyway. And I've got all of the paperwork for the vehicle that came out of the glove box originally. So these two I just grabbed, but these ones were in there as well. Believe it or not, they don't actually ship in the glove box. They actually come in the car, usually in the back. And then, of course, I've also got the 2 VIN numbers. So what I'm going to do, so each one of our vehicles in Canada comes with French manuals and English manuals. Now, because there's not a lot of room in the manual pouch, and to be quite frank, in the 5 years I've been selling cars, one person has ever actually wanted the French manuals. Sorry for the French viewers here, but they just don't want them. So what I do is I hold on to them and I ask the client, do you want the French manuals? If they say yes, great, I've still got them. If they say no, well, then I keep them and I put them in the recycling bin, actually. So unfortunately it is a bit of a waste of paper, but I think eventually we're going to see Hyundai just not do paper manuals anymore either, because you'll notice in some of my videos I've showed that there's a QR code you can scan on the stereo that takes you to a electronic manual. But anyway, so we've got a few different ones in here. So that's the French big one there. So we got the main big manual, which I'm going to show them where to find like service intervals and stuff like that. We've got the service passport, which shows things like the service history log that you can actually fill out when you're getting service history. And then we've got the infotainment systems manual, so that kind of goes over everything on the infotainment system. And then we've also got guarantees for tires, and Hyundai always includes guarantee information for every type of tire that they sell in every single pouch. So lower trim levels of Tucson's actually have Hankook or Nexen tires, but this one has Michelin, so I'll be recycling that one as well and keeping this one for them and ready to go. So what do I do with these VIN numbers? Well, I put one on the service passport, because the service passport is something that they can actually walk into the dealership with, immediately fill out when they're getting servicing done. So they'll have the VIN number right away for that as well. And then I'll put the other VIN number on the actual pouch. And the reason for that is if they ever need to call roadside assistance, they'll have the VIN number handy and ready to go. Now I'll also put my business card in here with it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put this stuff in here with the business card, and that way if they can't find what they need in the manual, they can give me a call. All right, and lastly, I'm going to just go ahead and pre-fill some of the stuff on this checklist. So some of the things that are already done, like the pre-delivery inspection, well, I've done that now. We've got a full tank of fuel in there. All the accessories are installed, the mats are installed, etc. All of that stuff's ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and check all of that off on here, and I'll let the client know that I've done that. I'm going to put the VIN number on there, the dealership information, etc. You know, how to contact service department and stuff like that as well. So all of that's about to go on there. but I won't bore you with that stuff. So anyway, there you go. Give you a bit of an insight into what we do here when we're delivering a vehicle. Hopefully every salesperson does this everywhere, because that's how you get good results on your surveys, and that's how you get return customers and return business and make people happy and yeah, keep them excited about the vehicle. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe and comment below if you've had an experience like this at a dealership, or maybe you've had a bad experience at a dealership. We'd love to hear your comments, so by all means, comment below. Let me know how your dealership did. All right, thanks so much. Have a great day. Take care.